I never thought betrayal could echo so loudly. The night he told me he was leaving for her, my world split in two, but his next words cut deeper than any goodbye. I'm Emily Carter, 34, a wedding photographer from Ohio. I capture love for a living, yet mine died with one sentence I can never forget. The perfect frame. The restaurant smelled of butter and candle wax, soft jazz curling through the air. My camera rested beside me, as it always did, even when I wasn't working. It was our 10th wedding anniversary, and I wanted to capture something perfect this time, something that felt real. When the waiter brought dessert, I asked the hostess to take a photo of us. I leaned into Mark's shoulder, smiling for the lens. Zoe, my best friend, sat across from us, clapping her hands and laughing, because of course she'd joined us. One big family, I said jokingly. Mark's hand lingered too long on her shoulder when he thanked her for being there. I brushed off the chill that crawled up my spine, blaming the draft. My brother Daniel sat beside Zoe, sipping wine and acting distant. He leaned closer and whispered, "You see it too, right?" I frowned. "See what?" He shrugged, eyes on Mark and Zoe, as they shared one of those unexplained looks you tell yourself not to notice. Somewhere deep down, something small tore quietly. I took another photo, pretending I didn't hear the voice inside me whispering that maybe this moment wasn't worth keeping. Later, when I looked through the viewfinder, the picture caught me off guard. The light was perfect. Gold, warm, but Mark's eyes were pointed toward Zoe, his smile too soft. I told myself I'd imagined it. I closed my camera, set it down, and told Daniel he was crazy. The announcement, 2 nights later, we invited Zoe and Daniel over for dinner again. I roasted chicken and poured the same red wine we'd opened every anniversary before. Everything felt normal, except it wasn't. Mark barely spoke, tapping his fork against the plate like a countdown had started somewhere between us. He waited until dessert to speak. "Emily," he said softly, eyes locked on mine. "I need to tell you something." I laughed nervously. "What's wrong?" Zoe's hands trembled as she folded her napkin. "Oh God," she whispered. And then he said it. "I'm leaving you for her." Every sound in the room disappeared. Even the clock on the wall stopped ticking, at least in my mind. My chest went cold, heavy, hollow. I stared at Zoe. "Tell me this is some disgusting joke." She started crying, saying something about love and how they didn't mean for it to happen. Mark reached out for her hand, right there at my dinner table. I remember the candlelight flickering between us, the flame shuddering like it knew something sacred had just died. Daniel stood up, his chair scraping harshly. "You're out of your mind, Mark," he spat. But I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. "After everything," I stammered. Mark stared past me like I was already gone. That night, I became invisible to the man I thought I knew best, the shattering request. He didn't leave that night. He packed a bag, slept on the couch, and waited until dawn to ruin me fully. "I need to talk about logistics," he said over coffee the next morning, like betrayal could be scheduled. "What logistics?" I asked, voice dull and distant. He swallowed. "The studio." "I want it." I blinked. "My studio? My business?" He nodded slowly, avoiding my eyes. "We built it together." "No," I whispered. "I built it. You just posed for the pictures." From the hallway, Daniel's voice carried. "Don't do this, Mark." I turned. My brother stood there, not surprised, not shocked, just guilty. "You knew?" I asked. Daniel looked down. "He told me last week." Rage pulsed through me. "And you said nothing?" He said nothing again, which was answer enough. Mark sighed, placing his mug down. "Look, Emily, I'll make you an offer. You get the house, I get the studio. It's fair. Fair!" The word cracked something open in me. I watched the man I married reduce my lifetime of passion into a trade deal. My hands trembled as I picked up my camera from the counter. I didn't raise it to capture him. I wanted to remember the monster he'd become. That morning, a seed of anger took root in my heart, and something in me knew I'd never forgive either of them. Traces of lies, I couldn't sleep. The house echoed with silence too sharp to bear. So I went to the studio, the place he wanted to steal from me. While digging through old folders on our shared computer, I found them. Emails labeled with Zoe's name. The first message was dated 3 months ago, on the same day she'd helped me decorate the Christmas shoot. Each line dripped fake sympathy. She trusts us completely. I almost feel bad. My breath caught. I read more messages, more planning, more passion, photos attached, trips I didn't know about, moments they'd shared while telling me they were checking locations. I printed every one, my fingers shaking. The dates matched our family holidays, the studio renovations, the charity shoot Zoe said she was volunteering for. Every part of my life had been touched by their secret. It wasn't just them, it was Daniel too. One reply from Mark mentioned keeping him quiet with money from a new client deal. I froze, a sick understanding blooming inside me. Daniel had known for months. Maybe he wanted the business too. Maybe betrayal ran thicker than blood after all. I spread the printed pages across my editing desk, staring at my ruined life laid out like a storyboard of deceit. Then I whispered, "Fine, you all want pictures? I'll give them pictures." That night, I stopped crying. I started planning. Blood and betrayal. I drove to my parents' house early Sunday morning. Daniel was already there, pretending to help Mom with pancakes. When he saw me, the color drained from his face. "We need to talk," I said. Mom excused herself quickly. Daniel sighed, setting down the spatula. "I know what this is about." "You covered for him," I said. "My husband, my best friend, and you said nothing." His silence was the loudest confession. "He promised me part of the business," Daniel muttered finally, his voice cracking. "Just a small share." "Because I wouldn't give it to you," I said. He nodded. Shame filled his eyes, but I didn't care anymore. Something inside me had shifted. I wasn't the naive sister, the faithful wife, or the forgiving friend. I was the woman they had underestimated. "I hope it was worth it," I said, turning for the door. He reached out, trying to stop me. Please." I pulled away. "Don't touch me." When I walked out into the cold morning air, it felt like a rebirth. The anger that had been churning inside me became something solid, sharp, and clear. That was the morning I decided I wouldn't be their victim anymore. I was done being their picture of trust. It was time to expose their masterpiece of lies, one shot at a time. The setup weeks passed before I saw them again. My anger didn't fade, it sharpened. Every photograph I took reminded me that I could control stories through what I chose to show. That power became my weapon. When Zoe called, chirping about how awkward things had been, I held my voice steady and offered forgiveness. "It's okay," I told her. "You both deserve to be happy." The words burned my tongue, but she believed me. A few days later, I ran into them at a coffee shop. Mark had a new smile, carefully rehearsed for the world. Zoe clung to his arm. I made small talk, then said, "Why don't I shoot your engagement photos, free of charge, for old time's sake?" Zoe gasped with joy. "You do that?" "Of course," I said, smiling. "Let's give the world something beautiful." That night, I prepared the backdrop, soft light, crisp white props, and my camera perfectly positioned. I even hired an assistant to ensure every frame hid tiny truths within. Intimacy that looked staged, gestures that hinted at guilt. When they arrived, I greeted them with warmth. Zoe wore pale pink. Mark wore the same suit he'd worn at our wedding. I guided them through poses, laughing as I clicked the shutter. Every shot captured love, twisted by deceit. Behind the lens, I felt calm for the first time since the night he left. They thought the session was about them. It wasn't. It was about power and reclaiming my story, one photograph at a time. As they drove away, I whispered into the empty studio, "You gave me the ending. I'll make sure the world sees it." Exposing the scene. The photos went online a week later, posted to every social media account I still controlled. The captions told the story in subtle hints at first, a breadcrumb trail for curious minds. Within hours, people noticed. The same followers who had once adored Mark and Emily Carter's love legacy now flooded the comment sections with fire. Each image exposed another lie. His hand on Zoe's waist during my anniversary dinner, her necklace reflecting my initials, the same studio mark behind them that was legally mine. By morning, their smiles had become a warning symbol. "The Other Woman and the Stolen Dream," one headline read after local blogs picked it up. I'd struck quietly, but precisely. When Zoe called, sobbing, I ignored it. By the third day, Mark texted, "You've ruined us," I typed back. Correction. "You ruined me first." Clients began canceling sessions with them. Zoe's friend group vanished, her business inquiries halted. The life they'd tried to build over my ashes started collapsing. I watched from my office window as the world took justice's side for once. But even as satisfaction warmed me, a strange emptiness lingered. Revenge filled the space betrayal had carved, but not completely. When the phone rang again, I didn't answer. Their agony wasn't my problem anymore. My silence was the final shot, the fallout. 2 weeks later, Daniel knocked on my door. He looked exhausted, his shirt wrinkled, his eyes red. "They left me with nothing," he murmured. I barely looked up from my laptop. "You mean they betrayed you too? Welcome to the club." "I didn't think they'd cut me off," he said. "Mark promised me partnership if I helped him. Now he's gone. I have bills, Emily. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't feed a woman who lost everything," I said coldly. He sat across from me, staring like he didn't recognize me anymore. "You've changed." I had to. I reached into my drawer and handed him an envelope. "Since you're here, deliver this to Mark." He hesitated. "What is it?" "Lawsuit papers," I said. "He signed away his rights when he used my studio name on documents. He'll pay, legally and publicly." Daniel blinked, shocked. "You're suing him?" I nodded. "You wanted my business so badly. Consider this the cost of betrayal." When he left, I felt no guilt, only a strange peace. That night, I poured wine and stared at the photo wall. Each image from my past life spoke like a ghost. Love gone, friend gone, brother lost to greed, but I was still standing. For the first time, I felt steady. Revenge had given me closure, the way forgiveness never could. The last shoot, months passed before he called again. "Emily," he said, voice rough, "meet me at the studio one last time." Curiosity drew me there. The space smelled of dust and memory. He stood by the window, shoulders slumped, a man drained of ego. "You destroyed me," he whispered. "Everything's gone. Clients, friends, money." "You destroyed yourself," I replied. He turned, tears in his eyes. "Was it worth it? Making me a villain?" "You wrote that story," I said quietly. "I just developed it properly." There was a pause. I was taut with unfinished pain. I lifted my camera. "Smile for the truth." He froze. The shutter clicked, echoing through the hollow room. That image, the once charming man reduced to emptiness, became the final frame of my private collection. I didn't stay long. As I left, I felt no remorse. Justice wasn't about kindness. It was about balance. Outside, the air was crisp, filled with the scent of rain. I looked at the sign above the door, faded letters spelling Carter Studio, soon to be replaced. For the first time since my marriage fell apart, the world felt light again. I'd taken back what was mine, my name, my pride, my voice. Focus restored, the new sign went up 3 months later, Emily Carter Photography. Simple, honest, mine. The studio walls gleamed fresh white. New clients came, people with heartbreak and hope in their eyes. I no longer chased perfection in photos. I chased truth. Sometimes when I edited images late at night, I thought about them, Mark, Zoe, Daniel. I didn't hate them anymore. They'd served their purpose. They'd taught me what betrayal really looked like and what survival demanded. One afternoon, a young couple entered, nervous but glowing. "We heard you tell real stories," they said shyly. "I do," I replied, smiling. "Real stories only." As I lifted my camera, clarity settled in. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about resolution, about turning pain into art. Every picture was a reminder that trust is fragile, but truth endures. I no longer feared betrayal. I studied it, captured it, and transformed it into power. And as the shutter clicked one last time, I whispered to myself, never again. Outside, the evening light touched the windows with gold. Somewhere in that reflection, a woman stood alone, but unbroken, and next to her name, etched into glass, was everything she'd reclaimed on her own.